That personality is actually more based on my daughters than anything, so.
That's awesome, man. I mean, raise your hand if Princess Donuts are big. All right, good. We got some genuine donuts. That's good. I don't know if everybody in the audience knows the story of how Dungeon Crawler Carl came to be. But on the off chance they don't, I think that's an awesome story that everybody should know. So can you tell us about how Royal Rumble came about and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I started writing, I remember the exact date. It was December 26th, 2019. I had just published a book called Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon, and I was about to get back into another book series that I will finish, called The Meaning of Blades. And I wanted to write just a quick story about a guy stuck in an alien game show with his ex-girlfriend's cat. I thought it was going to go pretty quick. And I started writing Dungeon Crawler Carl. And by the time February rolled around, I knew that I was going to be stuck in this for a while because I was having a good time. And I started posting it for free on a web serial site called Royal Road, which was mostly progression fantasy and RPG, like the type of books that Dungeon Crawler Carl is. And it started doing okay. It wasn't fantastic. And then I started a Patreon because everyone says you have to start a Patreon. They didn't do anything with it at first, but I had a Patreon. And the purpose of the Patreon was you could read the short, you read the chapters, because I posted chapter by chapter. Read them like a couple weeks earlier than the free versions on Royal Road. And then March of 2020 happened. We were literally setting up for Emerald City Comic Con. They told us, sorry guys, the con's canceled. And to this day, that booth of all that art is still in my garage. I had negative, I don't remember how much it was in my bank account because we had spent so much getting ready for the show, and this was my only income. I was selling artwork at shows, and I had to sell it on Amazon. Amazon shut down. I don't know if you remember. You had to be only selling PPE, like the protective gear stuff. So we were fucked. We had no money whatsoever. And so I really started leaning into my Patreon, and I got like a few more people agreeing to pay, $3 a month to read the chapters early. And by the time August came, it was like $50 a month or something like that, which is great for a writer, but it's not great if you have 4 children, and it was tough. So in October of 2020, I put it up on Amazon for sale, which was a little bit sooner than I was planning. And then it did pretty well. For a self-published book, it did well. And by well, I mean it sold like a couple hundred copies almost right away. And I was making still not enough money to live off of, but it was a decent amount of money. And then in January of 2021, the audiobook came out for the first one. And I started going online and seeing people talking about it and saying, hey, have you listened to this audiobook? It's really good. And, which is cool. And then very slowly started to ramp up. And by the time the book 4 came out, which was the next year, because the 1, 2, and 3 came out the first year, 2021. I can't remember what 4 was. I was almost done with book 4 by the time the first book came out too, by the way. By the second, the audiobook came out. I was getting more and more sales every single day. And then in beginning of 2023, publishers started noticing that I was selling well for an indie book. And then they started knocking on the edges. And then I also had someone come to me that said, hey, I'm a movie producer, a legitimate person, not a scam. Saying, because there's a lot of those around. We would like to make a movie out of Dungeon Crawler Carl. And so I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So I talked to an attorney who happened to be, who had read my book and had already messaged me how much he enjoyed it. And he ended up being Brandon Sanderson's attorney and represents a lot of other people in the movie, film, and TV rights. And he said, you need an agent. You need an agent now. I'll help you get one. And via him, I got a film and TV rights agent, and I got a literary agent. And we ended up not going with that deal, even though it was legitimate. But we sold the TV and movie rights, and at the same time, my book agent said, well, let's sell your book to a publisher. And I said, maybe, because I was actually, by this point, I was earning enough to live off. And I was making a lot of money on ebooks. And these advances that they're offering people wasn't the same amount of money that I could be getting by myself. But I wasn't making very much money selling the physical book rights. And we ended up doing something that's pretty rare nowadays. So I kept the ebook rights. To this day, Dungeon Crawler Carl is still self-published. Was not being touched editorially at all by anyone other than myself. And I licensed the rights to Penguin Random House for them to print the physical books. And that's pretty unusual. And so they licensed it, and the first one came out in August of 2024. And at that time, we had sold about 500,000 copies across the whole series, which was a lot. That's a lot, especially for a self-published book. And at the same time, TikTok picked it up. They found it. And it started going more and more popular. My Patreon started going popular, and we published all the books since then. And today, as we sit here today, book 8 will be coming out May 12th, and we're a little over 8 million copies sold. So